Planet of the Apes. A series with a lot of high points and a lot of low points. Really low points.
Very low and very high. The original Planet of the Apes, maybe one of the greatest works of modern science fiction that we've seen in cinema.
I think so.
Right? It set a lot of trends. It played around with a short story premise, turned it into a screenplay that was excellent and groundbreaking at the time. But then you have the sequels to the original.
I think it's interesting that it's defined as a sci-fi series, where I guess I would consider it more of a fantasy. I think the only element that really makes it sci-fi is the time travel element.
Yeah, the space travel back to the same place. Spoiler alert. I mean, it's unique science fiction in general. When I was a kid and I first saw the originals, I couldn't sleep for weeks because the apes and the makeup and everything was just downright terrifying. It comes across, the first one especially, the tone is like ominous, right? And then you see that Rod Serling wrote it.
Oh yeah, and at least the first Planet of the Apes feels like a lost Twilight Zone episode. It's straight up Twilight Zone.
Everything from the jump cuts to the music score in the background to the
twist ending.
Exactly. The twist that when you first see it and you're maybe a little younger, you have no idea really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like the first 10 minutes you're waiting for Rod Serling to show up.
Yeah.
In a world
where apes are man and man is ape.
Ain't that some shit? That's how Rod Serling should, like, every like Twilight Zone intro is basically him going, "Ain't that some shit?"
Just fancy words, exactly.
Ain't this some shit?
Exactly.
Ain't this some shit? I think it's interesting that apes, more specifically, I guess chimpanzees, they're the closest animal to us, but they're also some frightening, unpredictable. They're scary. Chimpanzee is scary. You never want to. There's a list of animals where you wouldn't want to be in the same room as.
A chimpanzee is way up there.
That's probably number one. Yeah, they look like us and they're very smart, but that only goes so far.
The original Planet of the Apes was really interesting because not only does it mess around with the roles being flipped, humans and apes, it also shows you a society that's created in a pretty fucked up manner as well. Much like early human society, right? Where you have religion and science becoming one, which, spoiler alert for history and life, doesn't work out too well. And you also have this, I would say, segregated society where only certain kinds of species of ape or chimpanzee or gorilla, etc., can have certain jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gorillas are more military, chimpanzees are more, I guess, Joe Schmo or small level scientists,
just
where
civilians.
Orangutans kind of run shit as like the
philosophers.
Yeah.
The first one is, I don't think anybody's gonna argue it's the best. I don't even think any of the others come close. No. Not that there aren't some good ones out of the sequels, but the first one, I mean, come on, it's a classic.
It's a classic.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
So we can't talk about what we're going to talk about without spoiling the first movie.
Yeah, so shut this off, or just, put it on mute so you can get us more watch time, but
because it is one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest twist endings of all time. So fuck it, let's say it. The Planet of the Apes is Earth in 2,000 years or so.
Yeah.
Charlton Heston, when him and his crew crashed on the Planet of the Apes, they hit, I don't know the specifics, but they slept too long.
They did some interstellar shit.
They're sleeping pods, they were supposed to be sleeping for a few months or something. I'm just pulling that out of my ass. They accidentally slept for 2,000 years. They think they're on another planet. You find out at the end with Charlton Heston that he's on Earth, and this is what the Earth has become 2,000 years later. You got humans who can't talk and are primitive, for lack of a better word.
You maniac! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
It's great, but the sequel's not Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the first sequel, not great.
I reveal my inmost self unto my God. Unto my God.
Actually, quite bad.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes is beneath what you should be watching.
It is a horrible movie. If you like it, I'm sorry, but
there are cool ideas, right? These movies, both the sequels to the original have some creative ideas. They just do not get executed properly at all.
One of Charlton Heston's rescuers tries to. He is also on the Planet of the Apes. He ends up beneath the Planet of the Apes, and it turns out that's where the humans have been living. But you find out that they're like mutant kind of people.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on. It's weird, but they're all worshiping this giant nuclear bomb. Charlton Heston, who is in the movie for at least 5 minutes maybe, shows up at the end, almost like saying, "We're not going to make any more sequels. This is it." And he presses the button that blows up the Planet of the Apes.
Or if they had more sequels planned, that was his way of saying, "I'm taking my paycheck and I'm doing other shit. Like,
Yeah.
I can't handle this anymore."
And there's a sequel. Now you'll ask, how the fuck could there be a sequel? The planet is destroyed.
Yeah.
This is where you get into our whole thesis here with the time travel element. It starts with Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
The escape takes all of maybe 5 seconds of footage. We kind of see the plane has landed back on Earth in the past.
Yeah, the spaceship that Charlton Heston crashed with was salvaged by Zira and Cornelius, the two main chimpanzees.
The
from
doctor
the first one.
assisted.
I don't know, but right before the planet blew up, a shockwave hit them, and they, in turn, traveled back in time 2,000 years.
Reverse Interstellar.
So it's Planet of the Apes in 1970. And it shows, not in a good way.
Too much 70s.
Too much 70s.
I would say, the opening sequence when the astronauts come out of the plane and the military thinks it's Taylor and his crew and they're walking up very straight. And then as soon as they take the helmets off and it's like, oh, those are the apes. And they start slouching and walking like the apes did back on the planet. It's like, It's like, what are you doing? Like, what is that?
They stood up straight just so you wouldn't know that.
Yeah, just not to give it away.
Yeah.
So they've traveled backward in time and everyone's a little confused as to what's happening. Roles get reversed, right? And now Zira, Cornelius, and Dr. Milo are the ones who are being poked and prodded and asked questions, much like Taylor was in the original.
Yeah. And then it turns around. The public starts to realize these are actually nice folk.
The public comes around on the apes quickly.
Yeah.
They become really fan favorites.
And you get montages of them doing human, wacky, cute things. It is so silly, this movie. The tone, they carry the same serious tone from the first two, and then they just crumble it up, throw it in the trash, and exchange it for the montage, which is eerily reminiscent of like Spider-Man 3 bad guy Peter Parker with jazz in the background doing dances and trying to pick up girls and whatever disaster that was. The people also realize what will happen in the future.
Yeah, they're not too happy to know that the planet is going to be destroyed someday and that they are going to be taking orders from apes for thousands of years.
Cornelius explains that at one time in history, this ape named Caesar rose up and started what's the word?
Revolt?
Revolt against humans, and that's what started the Planet of the Apes. People are scared of this, especially one guy in general, the
D.B. Cooper
the
looking
agent who looks like D.B. Cooper. I'm convinced it's him. Dead set on killing these chimps, especially when they find out that Zira is pregnant.
Yeah. Yep.
Zira is pregnant.
Must have been the shock.
Shock my foot. I'm pregnant.
Yeah, I think one of the parts that makes this one hard, because there are great creative ideas here, don't get me wrong, but they just get executed so poorly because, I mean, they slash the budget to be a third of the original. Granted, there are less prosthetics and less ape characters to fit with whatever makeup you have to, but still, like, the ape design in the third installment is worse than the original, and it's years later, which makes no sense and makes it really hard to take it seriously.
It does get worse and worse over the sequels, unfortunately. I did like the little ending, the coda of this. I thought was good. Zira, Cornelius, they both get killed, and we assume that the baby is also killed. At the end, the baby is alive and says "Mama," hinting that that is going to be the ape who
Keeps it going.
Who keeps
the ball rolling.
It goes. That's where it kind of comes full circle. I didn't care for the loop. That looks like a GIF. They can only get a little chimp to
say
say
mama
once. Yeah, they swap the baby, and there's a whole kind of switcheroo going on. But I find it hilarious. I don't know why. The idea of somebody in a chimpanzee costume holding a real baby chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Like, what is the chimpanzee? What is that baby thinking?
That's all kinds of postmodernism right there.
Is the baby thinking this is a real chimp, or is it like there's something wrong? Like,
That was probably a traumatic moment in that baby chimp's life. The title "Escape from Planet of the Apes" is like, the escape isn't even part of the movie.
Yeah.
Unless technically,
the very end,
unless
I
they're being
guess.
really meta with this, because it doesn't hit the head on or the nail on the head, in my opinion.
I will say this: all of the titles are silly, though, just because of the from the planet of the
formulaic nature.
Battle for the Planet of the Apes. It's like yeah, and I'm surprised they went with that with the reboot series, which we might talk about.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they still stuck with those kind of titles because it is silly, but it's almost like they know, and the movies are so good that we can call a movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And then we get to Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which is one of the better sequels for sure. Roddy McDowall, who played Cornelius, plays Caesar in Conquest. So it's like he's playing the father, and then he plays the son.
Okay.
It's a world where it's years later from Escape. It's a direct sequel, and so you have chimpanzees are like raised as they're like slaves and pets, and Caesar, just like the prophecy said, he said he's had enough.
Do you think it could be worse?
Do you think this riot will win freedom for all your kind? By tomorrow...
By tomorrow it will be too late.
This is the movie where I realized, it's funny because watching, without even seeing Planet of the Apes, before I'd even seen any of it, I always just assumed that the apes were like evolved, like cross-human, they're supposed to look like evolved apes, like, kind of a human hybrid thing. It wasn't until Conquest where I realized, no, these are supposed to be chimpanzees. They're just people in makeup and costumes trying to be chimpanzees.
All right, but you're so damned ugly.
I guess back then you had a decision. You either had to dress up humans in shitty makeup, or you get real chimpanzees on the set and endanger the entire set Endanger the whole crew.
Everybody, even the chimpanzees, everyone's in danger in that case.
So I think the best bet would be to just put some makeup on some people.
It's safer that way.
Do what you can. I said it came full circle in that one, but this one is really, now the apes have truly revolted and humans are in danger now, and you start to see the beginning of the Planet of the Apes. Battle for the Planet of the Apes, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just like...
We're not giving it the attention.
It's besides Beneath the Planet of the Apes, it's the worst. So I wanted to talk about how this whole time loop, I think it's kind of a happy accident. I don't think they really thought about it when they were making even Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I think it's just kind of something that happened while they were writing. They kind of realized, oh, we're making this paradox, this time paradox. I guess because it's like if the apes were created by two apes going back in time, then the apes who went back in time had to be created first, but they were created by themselves. So it's a
Cycle of apes.
chicken and the egg thing, I guess.
Ape or the human.
Yeah. It's like it's the grandfather paradox, but instead of death, it's birth.
I mean, it's the same. So if it's the same guy who wrote 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, it definitely could be a situation like you're saying where it's like, well, what do we do now? And like somebody in the writer's room or the main screenplay writer is like, oh, back to modern day Earth. Like, what do we want to know more about? So that's definitely interesting that you bring that up, because who knows how that transpired.
There are some clues that kind of go against that, I guess. Like the first one, there is a mention of a prophet an ape who what ended up being Caesar. Mm-hmm. You hear like in the church or whatever, they're talking about basically a Jesus ape that said no. He started the Planet of the Apes, and I'm wondering how much that influenced the rest of them, or if they were just writing it and they're like, oh, you know what, this is actually going to work. But I'm glad it happened, because even though the movies aren't that great,
it's fun to explore the concept.
The idea of
These had to walk so Peter Jackson's could run.
Those Andy Serkis movies, those are all three, the best trilogy in my opinion of all time besides Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and they did in the first installment of the Peter Jackson ones, right? They do use that zoo concept, but way better, that they used in Escape.
Rise is almost the remake of Conquest, whereas War of the Planet of the Apes is almost a remake of Battle.
Yeah.
Looking back in the series, I guess if it's anybody's series, it's Roddy McDowall, because he was Cornelius in all of them, except Beneath. I don't think he was in Beneath, but all of the rest of them, he was the only guy that kind of powered through.
Yeah, you could tell Charlton Heston bailed out of that shit.
Yeah.
See ya. I'm gonna go shoot guns and do other shit.
From my cold, dead hands.
But yeah, I mean, I would say even if they aren't the perfect movies, and even if you don't enjoy each and every one of them, I still think that the originals are worth a watch.
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean,
except Battle
and Beneath. Yeah, you know what? Just watch 3 of them.
Yeah.